And we're back. Another week has already gone by. Doesn't it feel like as we get older, all these weeks seem to compress shorter and shorter? All the days, dare I say it, every hour seems to get smaller and smaller as we have all of these responsibilities to take care of. Feels like when you're a kid, you have nothing to worry about. You got all the time in the world. All you're worried about is how you're going to fill up your next day, how you're going to have fun. If you have an event coming up in a couple weeks, that's all you think about. You want the time to fast forward until you get there. Now it feels like I wish I could slow it down in any way that I could. And you realize that life is an exponential curve and your time becomes more and more valuable. And every fleeting hour you spend not towards something that's going to make you happy in the end will ultimately lead to you having a less and less happier life when... Well, stop, take a breath. We're going to talk about some football and enjoy the time that we have together before the inevitable fate of all of us on this rock floating in the universe arbitrarily happens and all of us...
1, 2, 3, 4.
Draft day was a big success. We all gathered up at Edwin's house with a surprise visit from Donnie. We started off with a little bit of man-on-man competition, a good old classic couple games of Madden. Once we got the competitive juices flowing and ready for the draft, it was time to chow down. Edwin grilled up a delicious variety of meats and proteins to be able to quench our hunger so we could foray into this battle prepared. After we were done chowing down, it was time for a quick puff, after which it was time for business. Everyone had plenty of time to make sure that the choice they're making was wise. Everyone had way too much time to make the decisions that they were making. It was an hour and 40 minutes from start to finish. That's way too long. Let's just say that next year, we're not doing 2 minutes per pick. After all was finally said and done, I think everybody ended up with the team that they're going to be happy with going into the season. And I'm going to be telling you my rankings of your teams, number 10 through 6, in this episode. But first, I just wanted to go over some quick league reminders. First off, just to get some housekeeping out of the way, I wanted to remind everybody that your league fees are due when the kickoff happens and the season starts. And for this year, anybody that's able to pitch in an extra 10, maybe $20 is going to get this cool sticker and also is contributing towards our Fantasy Legacy Trophy that's going to have all the names of the champions, and each year the champions going to get to hold that trophy through the offseason. You can submit your payments to the same places that you have every season up until now. I'll put the options up on the screen here. If there's any other way that you need to get it to me, just give me a text. Other than that, just a super quick reminder that our first league meetup for name points in 2024 season draft games is going to be September 25th. Monday Night Football, Bengals versus Rams. I'll see you guys there. All right. Well, without further ado, it's the moment that you've all been waiting for. My judgment of you guys. Now, before I get things started, I wanted to clarify how I made these rankings. It was primarily based on our performance through the history of the league. I looked at the amount of playoffs that you made, the podium finishes that you had, and what finishes they were in that season, as well as who got the first round buys. And besides the data that I did in my research, I also had to throw in a little bit of judgment calls based on your recent performance and how everybody's doing in the league to form my top 10. Number 10, the guy who's been in the league for only 1 year, so we don't have very much data to go off of. Henson has no podium finishes, playoff appearances, or first round buys, but he's only been in the league for 1 year. Now, this year, his team is going by Tequila Tutties, which, let me take a moment and pose a challenge. Chef and Henson's name are way too similar in our league this year. We got Tequila Tutties and Tequila Sunrise. So, one of you guys is going to have to forfeit that name. You play each other in the Week 4 matchup in this season. After that game, the loser is going to have to change their name to something different, and the winner can keep their tequila-themed name. Now, even though Henson has 1 year of data, and he's number 10 just because we don't have very much information, he still has a promising team, And that doesn't mean that next year he's going to be in the same spot. Let's take a look. So his starting quarterback is going to be Tua, which should work out great since he has one of the top 2 combos of wide receivers in the league. Bijan was the most promising running back in this fantasy draft. Chris Godwin, Devonta Smith, Garrett Wilson, and Michael Pittman round out his wide receiver crew. I think he is lacking a little bit of depth at wide receiver, but he does also have 2 of the top defenses in the NFL, which in our league, means a lot. So good luck to Henson this year. Next up, at number 9, we have Greg, who doesn't have any podium finishes or first-round buys, but he did make the playoffs in 2019 and was the highest scoring team in the regular season that year. He's always been one that has a fighting spirit, always is right there on the cusp of glory, and let's take a look at his team this year. So his team this year, Chad Henne on the rocks, is going to be starting Joe Burrow at quarterback, which is one of the top 5 easily. Dalvin Cook and Tony Pollard is going to be his duo at running back, which is a solid core. Tyreek Hill and T. Higgins. George Kittle, Mike Williams. Can't go wrong with any of those dudes. Backing them up is going to be Kirk Cousins, Jerick McKinnon, Zay Jones, and Jacoby Myers. Wait, hold up. And he got Darren Waller too? Damn, Waller and Kittle. This guy's going to be dominating at tight end all year. Butker and Folk are going to be kicking for his team, while the top-rated Patriots and Steelers are going to be his defense. Overall, I think that's a solid team. And Greg, you got it this year, bro. Let's get you out of these bottom 3 and get you into the top 5 where you belong. Next up, at number 8, we have a guy who was in the league since the beginning, but had to take a little break and come back to the league. And despite his hiatus, he has 1 podium finish at 3rd place overall and has gone to the playoffs in 1 out of the 4 seasons that he's been with us. I'm talking about the guy whose name you see in our league and you can't pronounce in person. It's Hristo, my Bulgarian homie. He's a guy who I'm always fond of, I'm rooting for a little bit, but I want his NFL team to burn down in flames. Fuck Philadelphia, fuck the Eagles. But let's take a look at his team this year. So right off the bat with the name Vodka Hurts, he's going to foray into the season with Jalen Hurts as his quarterback. Kind of a little clever throw out there, even though fuck Philadelphia. James Conner and Jahmyr Gibbs are going to head his backfield with Keenan Allen and Justin Jefferson there. Tyler Lockett, one of the most reliable wide receivers that we have over the last 3-4 years. He also took an array of rookies. Devon Achane, Kendre Miller. Jahan Dotson is a second-year wide receiver who I had rated very highly on my fantasy rankings, as well as Jackson Smith and Jigba playing behind DK and Lockett for the Seattle Seahawks. Overall, with the youth that he has in this roster, I think that some of them are bound to hit, and he's definitely one that everybody should be watching out for, especially in the second half of this season. Next up, at 7th place, now is when we get into the nitty-gritty. This player has 1 podium finish at 2nd place in the championship. He's been to the playoffs 4 out of the 6 years that we've been a league, and he's also got the first round bye 1 time. It's everyone's favorite Charger fan. That's right, I'm talking about Vonsky. This year, he's going by Drunken Charger Hidden Dragon. And his team is going to be headed by Lamar Jackson, with Derrick Henry and Alexander Mattison leading the backfield. DK Metcalf, AJ Brown, and Jalen Waddle will be his top wide receivers, with Evan Engram as his starting running back. He also has Deshaun Watson as a backup QB, AJ Dillon, DeAndre Swift, who I'm not really big on, Jeff Wilson, Treylon Burks, Quentin Johnston, Terry McLaurin, and Gerald Everett to top it all off. Now, Vaughn has always been one guy that when I see on my schedule, I know that I need to watch out. And he's definitely not going to be one to take lightly this year, so if you're playing against him, mark your calendars. In the meantime, I'll be cheering with him for his NFL team, because I got Justin Herbert starting on my team. Next up, last but not least, actually technically best of this episode, It was tough for me putting a former champion outside of the top 5. But with only one podium finish, albeit resulting in the championship, I had to squeeze him outside of the list of guys who have had multiple top 3 finishes. Now, he still made playoffs in 4 out of the 6 seasons that he's been with us and has had one first round bye week. It's another guy that I watch out for when I see him on my schedule. It's Eric. May I just start off by saying that I love the team name and theme. Fourth and Faded, that's hilarious. Plus the picture is great. Now he was able to draft second overall, which you can tell by the fact that he has Patrick Mahomes and Christian McCaffrey leading his team. Among the others, Aaron Jones, Amari Cooper, Deontay Johnson, Dallas Goedert, and Cam Akers will be able to fill up his roster with Derek Carr as a backup, David Montgomery, Dameon Pierce, OBJ, and Brandon Cooks, as well as Alan Lazard, Sky Moore, and Cortland Sutton, rounding out his bench. Now he does have the Jets as his defense, which is one of the ones that I was targeting. They're projected to be one of the best this year. But with 1, 2, 3 players that he may potentially be starting at the same time from the Jets, I think he's hitching a little bit too much on the Jets this year, although a lot of people have them to be favorites to win the Super Bowl. What do you think? I mean, I know what I think. They got the reigning Defensive Rookie of the Year and the Offensive Rookie of the Year. They also got a Hall of Fame quarterback coming in, but they do have Nathaniel Hackett, who led the Broncos to a horrible season last year. And, I mean, let's just be honest. We all know who the best New York football team is. That's all I have for you this week. Now that we've organized number 10 through 6 in my rankings of everybody in this season, we all know who's going to be in the top 5. But what order are they going to be in? Stay tuned next week for the top 5 in our 4th and final preseason episode of the podcast before we put our money where our mouth is and get into the nitty-gritty of the season. In the meantime, I'll see you guys next week on the Fantasy Freestyle Podcast.